right, welcome back, guys, to another episode of Grow the Earth. It's a cool day here in the garden, and I was thinking last night, what would be the things that I would include in a small garden if I had to? If I only had a small space, what would I grow? And if you're a cook, if you like to cook and you like to use a lot of herbs and spices, the most benefits you get out of a small space would be to grow herbs. Here in our garden, we actually have a full bed that my wife grows. That is all of the herbs that she uses on a pretty much a daily basis. These herbs that she grows are not just for fresh. We grow a lot, and that way we have a dehumidifier. We have a dryer that we take all the herbs and we cut them, and especially right before they're going to die, because herbs are just like every other plant. Their whole mission in growing is to seed to make more of what they are. So right before they seed, if we have enough seed, we'll just cut them all the way down to the ground and take what we have and dry it and keep it for using for dry seasonings later on. And today, I just want to go through what we have in our garden, why we have it here, and why you're going to see that some of it is not doing so well at this time of year, because herbs are seasonal. Certain ones go really well whenever everything starts cooling off, and they will go to seed when it gets warm. And then you have others that grow really well when it's warm, and they will go to seed whenever it gets cool. So what we're going to start with today, the first thing we have in our garden right here, what we have here is cilantro. Very heavily used in Hispanic dishes. We'll physically just use it fresh in salads. It adds a little flavor, adds a little spice. And it's just different to have that in that kind of flavor in a salad whenever you're used to just just your lettuce and your flavorful greens and so forth. A little bit of cilantro goes a long way to making the salad taste a little better. This is one of the ones, as you can see, with all the green growth and the luscious growth here. It does very well in the fall into the winter time because it's not affected by the frost. We had a lot of things that took a hard hit with frost. This was not one of them. And the frost laid on this just like it did on everything else. This is a very hardy plant. It does very well in being cut back. And physically, when you cut it back, it will actually grow better. When it gets real big and bushy like this, it starts to kind of choke itself out, and it'll get stringy because it's trying to get up above so that it can flourish a little more. So what we'll usually do, and this is pretty much past time, is we will come in and we will cut it off and leave about 3 or 4 inches of the stem up with whatever leaves are still on it, and it will grow back. Why don't you come in here close, and I'll actually show you what we've already cut. All right, so as you can see right here, this has already been cut off. We've got some spots here to where we've got fresh cuts. Now this was 3 or 4 inches down, and it has grown up, and now we've got new growth coming off of it, and it's flourishing out more. This was from the last time we cut it. So, like I said, this is one of the plants that really, really, really benefits from being cut back. So, as long as you don't cut it back too far, as long as you leave a couple of nodes on it, like here, you have your stem, and you have nodes. As long as you leave a node on it, that will continue to grow up and grow out more, and it will continue to flourish. If you cut it off below that, you have a good chance of killing the plant. So you do have to be a little careful with it, but the more you cut it back, the better off it's going to be. Okay? And now we're going to move on down here to this. This is lemongrass. Now I know, most people, this just looks like grass. Looks like salt grass, what you see at the beach. This is a very flavorful herb that a lot of people will cut off and use dry, especially in Chinese dishes. It's used a lot in Asian cuisine. And the way you do this is you actually pull from the bottom and you pull the shoots out of the ground and you chop them up. And it goes really well in stir fries and so forth. And two, this is another one that once you pull a little bit of it, you can chop it up, you can dry it in your dehumidifier, and it'll keep for a long, long time. You can have it for later on. This is another one. This will pretty much go year round. It is affected by the frost a little bit. You can see right here, there's some brown spots on it. It of course wasn't, the frost didn't wreak havoc on it, but it grows a lot better in your summertime. Moving on down a little bit more. Now what we have here is parsley. Now this, a lot like your cilantro, good in salads. It used fresh, you can add to a salad. It adds a lot of flavor, a lot of spice to your salads. And two, in fresh cooking. If you're doing, we'll add this into stir fries. We'll add this into, other dishes where we're looking for a little bit of a green in it. And two, it's another one that really benefits from, like the cilantro, being cut back. Now this one doesn't quite have the nodes on it like your cilantro does. So you can cut this back to about 3 or 4 inches, and it will continue to grow back and grow back. And it's pretty bushy right now. As you can see, a lot of our herbs in our garden are needing to be cut back, and we're going to have to keep some for fresh and dry a lot more. But drying too, this is another thing that you can do that will dry and keep very well in a container in your kitchen. A little benefit of this, hence the name Grow the Earth. During the summertime, swallowtail butterflies love this stuff. They will lay eggs on it, and you will have, if you enjoy watching, nature happen, they will come in here and they will eat, and then they will cocoon up and they will hatch out, and you will help to repopulate the earth with swallowtail butterflies. So this has a lot of benefits, and if you have small children, in the summertime you'll reap a little bit of reward in the fact that you'll get to see life thriving on this plant. The next one up, what we have here is thyme. A very versatile spice. It's a very hardy plant. If you've ever grown this, you'll notice that it almost feels as though it's dried out, because the stem and even what the leaves grow off of is very rigid and very hard. This is another plant that you can cut back and it doesn't hurt it. If you cut this back too far, it will die. Just a word of warning. But this, you use the leaves off of it, and you can dry the leaves. Whenever we go to dry this, we'll actually come back and cut almost a whole section off, dry it, and then we'll use our fingers to kind of scrape the leaves off, because the leaves are the most flavorful part. The wife uses this quite a bit, but mostly we dry this for just adding in as a little extra flavor into the dishes and so forth. Fresh, we don't really use it so much fresh. I know in a lot of Asian cuisines they'll actually cut off like whole stems and they'll stir fry with it. Not something we usually do, but it's there as an option. This thing will grow and spread. So you kind of have to cut it back to keep it from getting. All right, what we have here is rosemary. Now, as you can see, just like your thyme, this has got a very hardy stem, and it is the leaves is what we're going to use for flavor. This is the spice that we use. Is actually the leaves. And if you see this stuff in the store, this is $4 or $5 for just a small bottle. It's very expensive. This plant here is a couple of years old. But the good thing about thyme is, or I'm sorry, the good thing about rosemary is you can cut this off and root this into another plant. This, we haven't had it go to seed yet. It just continues to grow and grow and grow. It's like a bush. And of course, like the other herbs in the garden, this is ready to be trimmed back. With rosemary too, just clip the whole stem off, put it in your dehydrator, dry it, and just take your fingers and bring off the leaves and kind of crunch them up, and that is your spice. That is your herb that you're going to flavor dishes with. All right, I'm gonna move down a little bit further. We have sage. The sage is a very popular dish for dry, to add to certain dishes. Also, another very hardy plant, does well in the winter time. It will go to seed, but some plants they don't happen to do it so much. I believe that this one is a couple of years old also, and with these, you just go in here and you can cut the whole stem off, or you can just individually pick the leaves. A lot of people will use this dry and fresh for flavoring of like your breakfast sausages and things like that. A lot of people will use it to flavor a brisket, flavor meat with. Works very well for that. Now this is a new planting this year. We've planted it before, but we've had the last bit died off. This is oregano. Of course, very, very popular in your Italian dishes, dried and fresh. We will let this grow and bush out, and this will literally take over a garden space if you don't keep up with it. It sends out runners, and it will take over this space before next year. With this too, it will, where it lays on the ground, it will root and continue to make a new plant from there. So another one of these are another one that you can clip off, and you can get a whole new plant just out of the clippings. We dry this and we use it in spaghetti sauces. We'll also use it fresh in salads, in soups. We'll put it fresh in soups, especially Asian soups. It works very well in that with that flavor profile. The next thing we have here, which looks horrible, is basil. Now, if you've ever looked at seeds on basil, there are like 5 different, not even 5, there are hundreds of different types and flavors and so forth of basil. It's a very versatile plant, grows extremely well. But in the winter, when it gets cold, it does this. It does not like to be cold. If it's too cold, it will go to seed. And this is what you have to do. You have to grow your basil, and if you're into saving seeds, you need to save your seeds whenever it goes to seed in the wintertime, and you replant the next year. We have these all together here, and a little goes a long way, because this does very well with cutting back. You can cut these back to a nub and they'll come back. As long as it's summertime, as long as it's warm and they like the weather. Once they get cold, they do this, they go to seed. So we want to make sure that we cut back, and we get whatever we're going to dry off of it and so forth before it goes to seed. because once it goes to seed, the flavor of the herb changes. And two, usually we come in here and we'll cut this thing off as soon as we see it start to bud, and just dry everything and keep it for over the winter time. And the last little bit of thing we have here on the end is mint. Now this mint, we've had a tough time growing this year. It is, the kids eat this stuff fresh. They'll reach down and grab off a sprig and just pop it in their mouth. It's like almost like chewing gum to them. And if you're into herbal teas, mint herbal tea right here all day. Pick off some of it, put it in your little diffuser for your teas, and dunk it in your water. Mint tea. This works a lot like your oregano. It will take over a space once it gets established. This is actually one poor little bitty plant that we had come up this year. This is all one plant. And it has flourished out into this. And where it lays on the ground, it will root and take off and root and take off and root and take off. These, like I said, it works very well for teas. We'll even cut some of this off once it gets too out of hand, dry it, and the wife and the kids will make herbal mint tea with it after it's dried. But it works fresh or dry. Fresh, the flavor's a little more mellow, a little less intense, and dry, it really takes on the mint flavor to it, and will it can be a little too much sometimes if that's what you want. All right, so that is our herb garden. And like I said, if I had a small space to plant, or if I had a patio in an apartment because you don't have land, this is the kind of stuff that I would plant if I cooked a lot. I use a lot of spices. This is where you're gonna save the most of money, because these things dried are so expensive. And you'll get the most enjoyment out of it, because a lot of these plants you won't find fresh in the store. So again, guys, like and subscribe, share this, share it on Facebook, share it wherever you can. Send a message to your buddy who's gardening and might want some tips. Like I said, we're a small channel. We're trying to grow this. I'm trying to share the Word of God along with our videos here, because none of this is possible without God. God makes this stuff grow. God will increase your garden. God will increase your spirit and increase your soul. I want to encourage you guys to garden. If you're gardening, I hope that some of these things that I've spoken of today really help you out. If I missed something, if there's something that I said was wrong, post a comment. Let me know something. I'm always in the comment section. I try and reply to every comment for everybody that is watching my videos. And I want you guys to be encouraged to garden. If you're not gardening, start small. You don't want to have what we have here. We've lived in other places and we've had just a garden that you could probably step across, but we've always had a little bit of a garden to grow certain things. Don't be discouraged if what you plant doesn't grow. Try and try again. You'll get it right. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next video.